The entire material or physical structure of a human being is called the human body. In reference to the living things, a body is the integral physical material of an individual. The human body consists of a head, neck, trunk, 2 arms, 2 legs and the genitals of the groin, which differ between males and females and various other organs.
Digestive system. Digestion begins in the mouth, well before food reaches the stomach. When we see, smell, taste, or even imagine a tasty snack, our salivary glands, which are located under the tongue and near the lower jaw, begin producing saliva. This flow of saliva is set in motion by a brain reflex that's triggered when we sense food or think about eating. In response to this sensory stimulation, the brain sends impulses through the nerves that control the salivary glands, telling them to prepare for a meal. As the teeth tear and chop the food, saliva moistens it for easy swallowing. A digestive enzyme called amylase, which is found in saliva, starts to break down some of the carbohydrates, starches and sugars in the food even before it leaves the mouth. Swallowing, which is accomplished by muscle movements in the tongue and mouth, moves the food into the throat or pharynx. The pharynx, a passageway for food and air, is about 5 inches long. A flexible flap of tissue called the epiglottis reflexively closes over the windpipe when we swallow to prevent choking. From the throat, food travels down a muscular tube in the chest called the esophagus. Waves of muscle contractions called peristalsis force food down through the esophagus to the stomach. At the end of the esophagus, a muscular ring called a sphincter allows food to enter the stomach and then squeezes shut to keep food or fluid from flowing back up into the esophagus. The stomach muscles churn and mix the food with acids and enzymes, breaking it into much simpler digestible pieces. An acidic environment is needed for the digestion that takes place in the stomach. Glands in the stomach lining produce about 3 quarts or 2.8 liters of these digestive juices each day. Some substances such as water, salt, sugars and alcohol can be absorbed directly through the stomach wall. Most other substances in the food we eat need further digestion and must travel into the intestine before being absorbed. By the time food is ready to leave the stomach, it has been processed into a thick liquid called chyme. A walnut-sized muscular tube at the outlet of the stomach, called the pylorus, keeps chyme in the stomach until it reaches the right consistency to pass into the small intestine. Chyme is then squirted down into the small intestine, where digestion of food continues so the body can absorb the nutrients into the bloodstream. The small intestine is made up of 3 parts: the duodenum, the C-shaped first part; the jejunum, the coiled midsection; the ileum, the final section that leads into the large intestine. The inner wall of the small intestine is covered with millions of microscopic, finger-like projections called villi. The villi are the vehicles through which nutrients can be absorbed into the body. The liver, located under the rib cage in the right upper part of the abdomen; the gallbladder, hidden just below the liver; and the pancreas, beneath the stomach, are not part of the alimentary canal, but these organs are essential to digestion. The pancreas produces enzymes that help digest proteins, fats and carbohydrates. It also makes a substance that neutralizes stomach acid. The liver produces bile, which helps the body absorb fat. Bile is stored in the gallbladder until it is needed. These enzymes and bile travel through the special channels called ducts directly into the small intestine, where they help to break down food. The liver also plays a major role in the handling and processing of nutrients, which are carried to the liver in the blood from the small intestine. From the small intestine, food that has not been digested and some water travels to the large intestine through a muscular ring that prevents food from returning to the small intestine. By the time food reaches the large intestine, the work of absorbing nutrients is nearly finished. The large intestine's main function is to remove water from the undigested matter and form solid waste that can be excreted. Respiratory system. The primary function of the respiratory system is to supply the blood with oxygen in order for the blood to deliver oxygen to all parts of the body. The respiratory system does this through breathing. When we breathe, we inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. This exchange of gases is the respiratory system's means of getting oxygen to the blood. Respiration is achieved through the mouth, nose, trachea, lungs and diaphragm. Oxygen enters the respiratory system through the mouth and the nose. The oxygen then passes through the larynx, where speech sounds are produced, and the trachea, which is a tube that enters the chest cavity. In the chest cavity, the trachea splits into two smaller tubes called the bronchi. Each bronchus then divides again, forming the bronchial tubes. The bronchial tubes lead directly into the lungs, where they divide into many smaller tubes which connect to tiny sacs called alveoli. The average adult's lungs contain about 600 million of these spongy, air-filled sacs that are surrounded by capillaries. The inhaled oxygen passes into the alveoli and then diffuses through the capillaries into the arterial blood. Meanwhile, the waste-rich blood from the veins releases its carbon dioxide into the alveoli. The carbon dioxide follows the same path out of the lungs when you exhale. The diaphragm's job is to help pump the carbon dioxide out of the lungs and pull the oxygen into the lungs. The diaphragm is a sheet of muscles that lies across the bottom of the chest cavity. As the diaphragm contracts and relaxes, breathing takes place. When the diaphragm contracts, oxygen is pulled into the lungs. When the diaphragm relaxes, carbon dioxide is pumped out of the lungs. Nervous system. The nervous system is the major controlling, regulatory and communicating system in the body. It is the center of all mental activities such as thinking, learning and memory. This system is responsible for regulating and maintaining homeostasis with the help of the endocrine system. The central nervous system is divided into two parts, the brain and the spinal cord. Brain. Brain is the heart of nervous system. The brain is made up of 10 billion nerve cells. Brain is the main portion of the central nervous system contained within the skull. The brain is the control center for movement, sleep, hunger, thirst, and virtually every other vital activity necessary to survive. All human emotions, including love, hate, fear, anger, elation, and sadness, are controlled by the brain. It also receives and interprets the countless signals that are sent to it from other parts of the body and from the external environment. The brain makes us conscious, emotional, and intelligent. Spinal cord. The spinal cord is the main pathway of communication between the brain and the rest of the body. It is a long, fragile tube-like structure that extends downward from the base of the brain. The cord is protected by the backbones of the spine, which are separated and cushioned by discs made of cartilage. Nerves. Nerves are the network of the nervous system. Nerves carry the messages in the form of electrical signals called the nerve impulses from the brain to the various organs of the body. The nerves also carry back the impulses from the organs back to the brain. Nerves acts as a network between the parts of the body and the brain. Nerves are made up of neuron or nerve cell. Skeletal system. Tissues form the main creation of skeletal elements. This system determines the shape and symmetry of the body, acts as a protective device for the organs, acts as a firm base for the attachments of muscles, and consists of 206 bones. The two primary components of the skeletal system are cartilage and bone, with additional support coming from fibrous materials such as ligaments and tendons, which intimates the relationship between the parts of the skeleton elements. This system can be briefly studied through the study of human body, which is known as anatomy. The skeletal system enables to withstand tremendous forces that affect an organism, supports the mass of the body and all of the muscles and organs that are part of the body, remains strong under the stresses of locomotion, such as when the feet strike the ground, sending the force of the impact through the body frame. Be strong at the junction where two bones meet, where stress is applied and felt. Protect against impact to soft tissues, such as the skull protects the brain. Excretory system. The word excretion means the removal of waste substances from the body. Several organs are involved with the excretory system, including the kidneys, sweat glands, lungs, and rectum. The primary organs of excretions, however, is the kidney. Excretion is vital to the health of the body because the wastes are poisonous. If the wastes build up and are not eliminated, they can cause serious problems. As you know, carbon dioxide and water vapor are removed by the lungs. Other wastes, namely urea, uric acid, various salts, and assorted nitrogenous wastes, are removed by the kidneys and sweat glands. The process of excretion involves finding and removing waste materials produced by the body. The primary organs of excretion are the lungs, kidneys, and skin. Waste gases are carried by blood traveling through the veins to the lungs, where respiration takes place. Dead cells and sweat are removed from the body through the skin. Liquid waste is removed from the body through the kidneys. Located beside the spine in your back, within your rib cage, the kidneys are small, about 10 centimeters long, reddish-brown organs that are shaped like beans. During circulation, blood passes through the kidneys in order to deposit used and unwanted water, minerals, and a nitrogen-rich molecule called urea. The kidneys filter the waste from the blood, forming liquid called urine. The kidneys funnel the urine into the bladder along two separate tubes called ureters. The bladder stores the urine until muscular contractions force the urine out of the body through the urethra. Each day, your kidneys produce about 1.5 liters of urine. All of it needs to be removed from your system. This occurs through urination. Circulatory system. On an average, your body has about 5 liters of blood continually traveling through it by way of the circulatory system. The heart, the lungs, and the blood vessels work together to form the circle part of the circulatory system. The pumping of the heart forces the blood on its journey. The body's circulatory system really has 3 distinct parts: pulmonary circulation, coronary circulation, and systemic circulation. Or the lungs, pulmonary, the heart, coronary, and the rest of the system, systemic. Each part must be working independently in order for them to all work together. The heart. The heart is one of the most important organs in the entire human body. It is really nothing more than a pump composed of muscle which pumps blood throughout the body, beating approximately 72 times per minute of our lives. The heart pumps the blood which carries all the vital materials which help our bodies function and removes the waste products that we do not need. If the heart ever ceases to pump blood, the body begins to shut down and after a very short period of time will die. The lungs. In humans, the lungs occupy a large portion of the chest cavity, from the collarbone down to the diaphragm. The right lung is divided into 3 sections or lobes. The left lung, with a cleft to accommodate the heart, has only 2 lobes. The 2 branches of the trachea, called bronchi, subdivide within the lobes into smaller and smaller air vessels known as bronchioles. Bronchioles terminate in alveoli, tiny air sacs surrounded by capillaries. When the alveoli inflate with inhaled air, oxygen diffuses into the blood in the capillaries to be pumped by the heart to the tissues of the body. At the same time, carbon dioxide diffuses out of the blood into the lungs, where it is exhaled. Blood vessels. Blood vessels are hollow utensils for carrying blood. Located throughout your body, your blood vessels are hollow tubes that circulate your blood. There are 3 varieties of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. During blood circulation, the arteries carry blood away from the heart. The capillaries connect the arteries to veins. Finally, the veins carry the blood back to the heart. Besides circulating blood, the blood vessels provide 2 important means of measuring vital health statistics: pulse and blood pressure. We measure heart rate or pulse by touching an artery. The rhythmic contraction of the artery keeps pace with the beat of the heart. Since an artery is near the surface of the skin, while the heart is deeply protected, we can easily touch the artery and get an accurate measure of the heart's pulse. Muscular system. The muscular system is composed of specialized cells called muscle fibers. It contains more than 650 individual muscles, which are attached to the skeleton. Their predominant function is contractibility. Muscles, where attached to bones or internal organs and blood vessels, are responsible for movement. Nearly all movement in the body is the result of muscle contraction. The muscular system consists of 3 different types of muscle tissues: skeletal, cardiac, smooth. Each of these different tissues has the ability to contract, which then allows the body movements and functions. There are 2 types of muscles in the system, and they are the involuntary muscles and the voluntary muscles. Voluntary muscles. The muscles in which we are allowed to control by ourselves are called the voluntary muscles. Involuntary muscles. The ones we cannot control are the involuntary muscles. The heart or the cardiac muscle is an example of involuntary muscle. Reproductive system. The major function of the reproductive system is to ensure survival of the species. A human being can live a long, healthy and happy life without producing offspring. But if the species is to continue, at least some individuals must produce offspring. Within the context of producing offspring, the reproductive system has 4 functions: to produce egg and sperm cells, to transport and sustain these cells, to nurture the developing offspring, to produce hormones. These functions are divided between the primary and secondary or accessory reproductive organs. The primary reproductive organ or gonads consist of the ovaries and testes. These organs are responsible for producing the egg and sperm cells, gametes, and for producing hormones. These hormones function in the maturation of the reproductive system, the development of sexual characteristics, and have important roles in regulating the normal physiology of the reproductive system. All other organs, ducts, and glands in the reproductive system are considered secondary or accessory reproductive organs. These structures transport and sustain the gametes and nurture the developing offspring. Male reproductive system. The male reproductive system consists of a pair of testes and a network of excretory ducts, epididymis, ductus deferens and ejaculatory ducts, seminal vesicles, prostate, the bulbourethral glands, and the penis. In a male who has reached sexual maturity, the 2 testicles or testes produce and store millions of tiny sperm cells. The testicles are oval-shaped and grow to be about 2 inches, that is 5 centimeters in length, and 1 inch, that is 3 centimeters in diameter. Alongside the testicles are the epididymis and the vas deferens, which make up the duct system of the male reproductive organs. The vas deferens is a muscular tube that passes upward alongside the testicles and transports the sperm-containing fluid called semen. The epididymis is a set of coil tubes, one for each testicle, that connects to the vas deferens. The epididymis and the testicles hang in a pouch-like structure outside the pelvis called the scrotum. The accessory glands, including the seminal vesicles and the prostate gland, provide fluids that lubricate the duct system and nourish the sperm. The seminal vesicles are sac-like structures attached to the vas deferens to the side of the bladder. The prostate gland, which produces some of the parts of semen, surrounds the ejaculatory ducts at the base of the urethra, just below the bladder. The urethra is the channel that carries the semen to the outside of the body through the penis. The urethra is also part of the urinary system because it is also the channel through which urine passes as it leaves the bladder and exits the body. The penis is actually made up of 2 parts, the shaft and the glands. The shaft is the main part of the penis, and the glands is the tip, sometimes called the head. At the end of the glands is a small slit or opening, which is where semen and urine exit the body through the urethra. The inside of the penis is made of a spongy tissue that can expand and contract. Female reproductive system. The organs of the female reproductive system consist of a pair of ovaries to produce eggs. Ovaries are located in the lower part of the abdomen. The released ovum passes through the oviduct or fallopian tube where it meets the sperms and fusion takes place. The fertilized egg or zygote descends down the oviduct and gets attached to the wall of uterus. The further development of zygote takes place inside the uterus to form a new baby. Immune system. The immune system is the body's defense against infectious organisms through a series of steps called the immune response. The immune system attacks organisms and substances that occupy our systems and cause disease. The immune system is made up of a network of cells, tissues, and organs that work together to protect the body. The cells that are part of this defense system are white blood cells or leukocytes. They come in two basic types, which combine to seek out and destroy the organisms or substances that cause disease. Leukocytes are produced or stored in many locations throughout the body, including the thymus, spleen, and bone marrow. For this reason, they are called the lymphoid organs. There are also clumps of lymphoid tissue throughout the body, primarily in the form of lymph nodes that house the leukocytes. The leukocytes circulate throughout the body, between the organs and nodes by means of the lymphatic vessels. Leukocytes can also circulate through the blood vessels. In this way, the immune system works in a coordinated manner to monitor the body for substances that might cause problems. There are two basic types of leukocytes. The phagocytes are cells that chew up invading organisms. The lymphocytes are cells that allow the body to remember and recognize previous invaders. A foreign substance that invades the body is called an antigen. When an antigen is detected, several types of cells work together to recognize and respond to it. These cells trigger the B lymphocytes to produce antibodies. Antibodies are specialized proteins that lock into specific antigens. Antibodies and antigens fit together like a key and a lock. Once the B lymphocytes have produced antibodies, these antibodies continue to exist in a person's body. That means, if the same antigen is presented to the immune system again, the antibodies are already there to do their job. That's why, if someone gets sick with a certain disease like chickenpox, that person typically doesn't get sick from it again. This is also why we use immunizations to prevent getting certain diseases. The immunization introduces the body to the antigen in a way that doesn't make a person sick, but it does allow the body to produce antibodies that will then protect that person from future attack by the germ or substance that produces that particular disease. Although antibodies can recognize an antigen and lock onto it, they are not capable of destroying it without help. That is the job of the T cells. The T cells are part of the system that destroys antigens that have been tagged by antibodies or cells that have been infected or somehow changed. T cells are also involved in helping signal other cells like phagocytes to do their jobs. Nose. Nose is also called as the sense organ for smell. Smell is evoked by specific chemical substance stimulating the concerned receptors. Receptors for smell occur in a modified form of pseudostratified epithelium covering a part of the nasal mucosa. The epithelium is called olfactory epithelium. The nose is also the main gate for the respiratory system. The nose consists of two holes called nostrils. The nostrils and the nasal passages are separated by a wall called the septum. Deep inside your nose, close to your skull, your septum is made up of very thin pieces of bone. Closer to the tip of your nose, the septum is made of cartilage, which is flexible material that's firmer than skin or muscle. It's not as hard as bone. Behind your nose, in the middle of your face, is a space called the nasal cavity. It connects with the back of the throat. The nasal cavity is separated from the inside of your mouth by the palate, roof of your mouth. The inside of your nose is lined with a moist, thin layer of tissue called a mucous membrane. This membrane warms up the air and moistens it. The mucous membrane makes mucus. Mucus captures dust, germs, and other small particles that could irritate your lungs. If you look inside your nose, you will also see hair that can trap large particles like dirt or pollen. Skin. Skin is the biggest organ in the human body. Skin holds muscles, bones, organ together. It also performs the following functions: protects our bodies, helps keep our bodies at just the right temperature, allows us to have the sense of touch. The skin is made up of 3 layers: epidermis, the outer layer of the skin; dermis, the second layer of the skin; and the third layer and the last layer is subcutaneous layer, each layer having its own importance. Epidermis. This is the top layer of skin and the one you can actually see. It protects your body from infection and helps to seal in moisture. It's built up of several layers of living cells, which are then topped by sheets of dead cells. It's constantly growing, with new cells being produced at its base. They quickly die and are pushed up to the surface by the arrival of new ones. These dead cells eventually flake away, which means that every new layer of skin is another chance to have a soft, glowing complexion. The lower levels of living cells are fed by the blood supply from underneath, whereas the upper dead cells only need water to ensure they are kept plump and smooth. The epidermis is responsible for your coloring, as it holds the skin's pigment. It ranges in thickness from 1/20th of an inch on the palms and soles to 1/200th of an inch on the face. Dermis. The dermis is the layer that lies underneath the epidermis, and it is composed entirely of living cells. It consists of bundles of tough fibers which give your skin its elasticity, firmness, and strength. There are also blood vessels which feed vital nutrients to these areas. The most important function of dermis is respiration. The countless tiny blood vessels or capillaries end here in finely drawn networks, from where they feed the outer skin layer. Dermis also determines the tone of the skin. Subcutaneous layer, lower dermis. The various glands, such as the oil and sweat glands, originate in the lower dermis. From here, they rise to the surface of the skin to eliminate waste matter. Lower dermis also acts as a cushion for the rest of the skin. It contains the finely distributed muscles of the skin which regulate body temperature. The skin contains the following specialized organs: Sebaceous glands are tiny organs which usually open into hair follicles on the surface of your skin. They produce an oily secretion called sebum, which is your skin's natural lubricant. The sebaceous glands are most concentrated on the scalp and face, particularly around the nose, cheeks, chin, and forehead, which is why these are usually the most oily areas of your skin. Sweat glands are all over your body. There are millions of them, and their main function is to regulate your body temperature. When sweat evaporates on the skin's surface, the temperature of your skin drops. Hairs grow from the hair follicles. They can help keep your body warm by trapping air underneath them. There are no hairs on the soles of your feet and palms of your hands. Eyes. The human eye is the organ which gives us the sense of sight. It is a tough ball filled with a jelly-like substance called vitreous humor, allowing us to learn more about the surrounding world than we do with any of the other four senses. We use our eyes in almost every activity we perform, whether reading, working, etc. The eyesight can be valued more than all the rest sensory organs. Eye in the process of vision. Light waves from any object enter the eye first through the cornea, which is the clear dome at the front of the eye. The light then progresses through the pupil, the circular opening in the center of the colored iris. Next, the light passes through the crystalline lens, which is located immediately behind the iris and the pupil. Initially, the light waves are bent or converged first by the cornea, and then further by the crystalline lens to a nodal point located immediately behind the back surface of the lens. At that point, the image becomes reversed and inverted. The light continues through the vitreous humor, the clear gel that makes up about 80% of the eye's volume, and then, ideally, back to a clear focus on the retina behind the vitreous. The small central area of the retina is the macula, which provides the best vision of any location in the retina. Within the layers of the retina, light impulses are changed into electrical signals and then sent through the optic nerve along the visual pathway to the occipital cortex at the posterior or back of the brain. Here, the electrical signals are interpreted or seen by the brain as a visual image. When the light entering the eyes is bright enough, the pupils will constrict, get smaller due to the papillary light response. Actually then, we do not see with our eyes, but rather with our brains. Our eyes merely are the beginnings of the visual process. Ears. The ears are the sense organs for hearing. The ear not only helps to hear, but also helps to maintain the body equilibrium of the human body. The human ear can hear the frequency ranging from 16 to 20,000 cycles per second, or 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Human ear is mainly divided into three major parts, which has its own importance. Outer ear traps sound waves and funnels them down the ear canal to the middle ear. Middle ear. Sound waves cause the eardrum to vibrate much like the membrane on a drum. These vibrations then move through three little bones called the hammer, anvil, and stirrup. Inner ear. When the stirrup vibrates, fluids in the cochlea begin to vibrate. These vibrations stimulate nerve endings that carry the signal to the brain. These messages are interpreted as sounds. Tongue. The tongue is the large bundle of muscles on the floor of the mouth that manipulates food for chewing and swallowing. It is one of the organs of taste. Much of the surface of the tongue is covered in taste buds. The tongue assists in forming the sounds of speech. The tongue is made mainly of skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle is a type of striated muscle attached to the skeleton. Skeletal muscles are used to facilitate movement by applying force to bones and joints via contraction, and attached to the hyoid bone, mandible and the styloid processes of the temporal bone. The muscles that attach the tongue are the extrinsic muscles of the tongue. Inside the tongue, there are 4 pairs of intrinsic muscles that can alter the shape of the tongue for talking and swallowing. Since it contains no supporting skeletal structures for the muscles, the tongue is an example of a muscular hydrostat, like an octopus arm. The dorsum, top side of the tongue, can be divided into 2 parts. A pharyngeal part, posterior third of the tongue, which faces backward to the oropharynx, and an oral part, anterior 2/3 of the tongue, that lies mostly in the mouth. The 2 parts are separated by a V-shaped groove, which marks the sulcus terminalis, or terminal sulcus. Essential diet. Diet. Good health is fundamental to leading a full and active life, and getting the right nutrition is an important step towards good health. The word diet is often used to describe an eating plan intended to aid weight loss. However, diet really refers to the foods a person eats in the course of a day or week. The more balanced and nutritious the diet, the healthier the person can expect to be. A balanced diet means eating the right amount of foods from all food groups. The benefits of a balanced diet are numerous. The right amount of vitamins and nutrients can increase life expectancy by keeping the heart and body healthy, thereby preventing many long-term illnesses. Body weight can also be kept to an acceptable level through healthy eating, leading to a fitter and more active lifestyle. A balanced diet can lower the risk of infectious diseases, and this is apparent in the reduction of diseases such as cholera, diphtheria and polio in England. Proteins. Proteins make up about 15% of the mass of the average person. Protein molecules are essential to us in an enormous variety of different ways. Much of the fabric of our body is constructed from protein molecules: muscle, cartilage, ligaments, skin and hair. These are all mainly protein materials. In addition to these large-scale structures that hold us together, smaller protein molecules play a vital role in keeping our body working properly. Hemoglobin, hormones, antibodies, and enzymes are all examples of these less obvious proteins. Whether you are a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian, you must have protein in your diet. The protein in the food we eat is our main source of the chemical building blocks we need to build our own protein molecules. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are chemical compounds that contain oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon atoms. Certain carbohydrates are an important storage and transport form of energy in most organisms, including plants and animals. Carbohydrates are classified by their number of sugar units: monosaccharides such as glucose and fructose, disaccharides such as sucrose and lactose, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides such as starch, glycogen and cellulose. High fiber, high cellulose vegetable foods are the healthiest choices for human nutrition, and intake of these foods is associated with lowered incidences of hypertension, cancer, arthritis, diabetes, etc. Examples are lettuce and broccoli. Examples of low-fiber, complex carbohydrates are banana, tomato, squash, and all cereals and grains, therefore bread and pasta, potatoes and rice. Simple sugars and low-fiber, complex carbohydrates represent a threat to health when they are consumed in inappropriate amounts, such as may occur in low-soy vegetarian diets where they are being eaten to replace the calories which would ordinarily come from protein. Vitamins. Vitamins and minerals are substances that are found in foods we eat. Your body needs them to work properly, so you grow and develop just like you should. When it comes to vitamins, each one has a special role to play. For example, vitamin D in milk helps your bones. Vitamin A in carrots helps you see at night. Vitamin C in oranges helps your body heal if you get a cut. B vitamins in leafy green vegetables help your body make protein and energy. Vitamins hang out in water and fat. There are two types of vitamins, fat-soluble and water-soluble. When you eat foods that contain fat-soluble vitamins, the vitamins are stored in the fat tissues in your body and in your liver. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are all fat-soluble vitamins. Water-soluble vitamins are different. When you eat foods that have water-soluble vitamins, the vitamins don't get stored as much in your body. Instead, they travel through your bloodstream. And whatever your body doesn't use comes out when you urinate. So, these kinds of vitamins need to be replaced often because they don't like to stick around. This crowd of vitamins includes vitamin C and the big group of B vitamins, B1 thiamine, B2 riboflavin, option B2 riboflavin, niacin, B6 pyridoxine, folic acid, B12 cobalamin, biotin and pantothenic acid. Fats. Fats are a subgroup of compounds known as lipids that are found in the body and have the general property of being hydrophobic, meaning they are insoluble in water. Fats are also known as triglycerides, molecules made from the combination of one molecule of glycerol with 3 fatty acids. The main purpose of fats in the body is to serve as a storage system and reserve supply of energy. During periods of low food consumption, fat reserves in the body can be mobilized and broken down to release energy. Fats serve as an insulation material to allow body heat to be conserved, and fats line and protect delicate internal organs from physical damage. Fats in the diet can be converted to other lipids that serve as the main structural material in the membranes surrounding our cells. Fats are also used in the manufacture of some steroids and hormones that help regulate proper growth and maintenance of tissue in the body. Fats can be classified as saturated and unsaturated, depending on the structure of the long carbon-carbon chains in the fatty acids. Fats that contain no double bonds in their fatty acid chains are referred to as saturated fats. These fats tend to be solid at room temperature, such as butter or animal fat. The consumption of saturated fats carries some health risks in that they have been linked to arteriosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, and heart disease. Unsaturated fats contain some number of double bonds in their structure. These fats are generally liquids at room temperature. Fats that are liquid at room temperature are referred to as oils. Unsaturated fats can be either polyunsaturated, many double bonds, or monounsaturated fats, one or few double bonds. Recent research suggests that the healthiest of the fats in the human diet are the monounsaturated fats, such as olive oil and canola oil, because they appear to be beneficial in the fight against heart disease. Glucose. Glucose is a simple monosaccharide sugar and one of the most important carbohydrates to plants and animals. It is a primary product of photosynthesis and a source of energy for cellular respiration. Glucose comes in two isomers, mirror images of one another, D-glucose and L-glucose. In living things, only D-glucose can be found. L-glucose has some value in the diet food industry, as the body has trouble synthesizing it, yet it tastes nearly identical to D-glucose. Glucose can be extracted commercially by hydrolyzing starch with enzymes. Maize, rice, wheat, potatoes, cassava, arrowroot, and sago can all be used as a source of glucose. Starch, cellulose, glycogen, and lactose are all forms of glucose. When glucose is poorly used in the human body, it can result in the glycosylation of proteins, thereby destroying them. It is probably this mechanism in diabetics that leads to blindness, peripheral neuropathy, and ultimately kidney failure. Because the modern diet includes far more glucose than our ancestors, glucose-related illnesses are probably more pronounced today than ever before. But glucose is necessary for life. It is the primary fuel in our bodies. It helps create proteins as well as destroy them. It also enables the body to metabolize lipids. Hormones. Hormones carry messages from glands to cells to maintain chemical levels in the bloodstream that achieve homeostasis. Hormone comes from a word that means to spur on. This reflects how the presence of hormones acts as a catalyst for other chemical changes at the cellular level necessary for growth, development, and energy. As members of the endocrine system, glands manufacture hormones. Hormones circulate freely in the bloodstream, waiting to be recognized by a target cell, their intended destination. The target cell has a receptor that can only be activated by a specific type of hormone. Once activated, the cell knows to start a certain function within its walls. Genes might get activated or energy production resumed. As special categories, autocrine hormones act on the cells of the secreting gland, while paracrine hormones act on nearby but unrelated cells. There are two types of hormones, known as steroids and peptides. In general, steroids are sex hormones related to sexual maturation and fertility. Steroids are made from cholesterol, either by the placenta when we are in the womb or by our adrenal gland or gonads after birth. Cortisol, an example of a steroid hormone, breaks down damaged tissue so it can be replaced. Steroids determine physical development from puberty on to an old age, as well as fertility cycles. If we are not synthesizing the correct steroidal hormones, we can sometimes supplement them pharmaceutically as with estrogen and progesterone. Peptides regulate other functions such as sleep and sugar concentration. They are made from long strips of amino acids, so sometimes they are referred to as protein hormones. Growth hormone, for example, helps us burn fat and build up muscles. Another peptide hormone, insulin, starts the process to convert sugar into cellular energy. Enzymes, they are almost invisible protein molecules which are contained in the food we eat and are produced by our bodies. Scientists believe there are thousands of different enzymes. Enzymes are divided into three primary categories for purpose of discussion: metabolic, digestive, and food. Metabolic enzymes are those enzymes that catalyze various chemical reactions within the cells, such as detoxification and energy production. Digestive enzymes are secreted along the gastrointestinal tract to break down food so the nutrients can be absorbed into the bloodstream. Food enzymes are naturally present in all raw foods, providing an exogenous source of digestive enzymes when consumed. Plant enzymes are a special preparation of enzymes, present naturally in raw food in supplement form. Plant enzymes, as you've probably guessed, come from plants, and they can assist the body in the digestion of the food we eat if taken with meals. Taken between meals, they can fortify the blood and be stored in the liver and other organs to be used when needed. In short, they enhance our body's nutritional health. Why are plant enzymes important? It is thought that our body's organs and glands have a lifetime enzyme potential. This means that, based on our genetics and other environmental factors, our body can produce only so many enzymes during our lifetime. As we age, our body automatically tries to conserve its dwindling resources and to produce fewer and fewer enzymes of all types. When this lifetime enzyme potential is reached, the body can no longer sustain life. We die because nothing takes place in the body without enzymes. Enzymes constitute the life force which powers our whole system. Bones. Bone constitutes the fundamental element of all the joints. In the long bones, the extremities are the parts which form the articulations. They are generally somewhat enlarged and consist of spongy cancellous tissue with a thin coating of compact substance. In the flat bones, the articulations usually take place at the edges, and in the short bones at various parts of their surfaces. The layer of compact bone which forms the joint surface and to which the articular cartilage is attached is called the articular lamella. It differs from ordinary bone tissue in that it contains no Haversian canals and its lacunae are larger and have no canaliculi. The vessels of the cancellous tissue, as they approach the articular lamella, turn back in loops and do not perforate it. This layer is consequently denser and firmer than ordinary bone and is evidently designed to form an unyielding support for the articular cartilage. Spinal cord. The spinal cord, located within the vertebral column, is a soft cylindrical structure made up of highly organized nervous tissue. Extending downward as a continuation of the brain, the spinal cord is the main pathway of communication between the brain and the rest of the body. It is a delicate structure protected by the vertebrae and their associated ligaments and muscles, the spinal meninges and the cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. In adults, the spinal cord is approximately 42 to 45 cm in length and extends from the foramen magnum in the occipital bone to the second lumbar vertebral level. However, the tapering end of the cord may terminate as high as the 12th thoracic vertebral level or as low as the 3rd lumbar vertebral level. 31 pairs of spinal nerves enter and exit from the spinal cord throughout its length, passing through small openings between each vertebra. There are 8 pairs of cervical nerves, 12 pairs of thoracic nerves, 5 pairs of lumbar nerves, 5 pairs of sacral nerves, and 1 pair of coccygeal nerves. Nerves of the spinal cord are grouped or bundled so that related types of nerve fiber run together. Motor nerves, nerves that transmit information to muscles and stimulate movement, are automatically positioned toward the front of the body. Sensory nerves, nerves that transmit information to the brain about sensations such as touch, position, pain, heat and cold, are located towards the rear or posterior position of the body. Teeth. Teeth are one of the important parts of our body as it helps us to break the food into smaller particles, which makes the digestion easier. They are placed both on our upper and lower jaws. It acts as a frame to the mouth. Internal structure of the teeth. Cementum. It is a layer of tough, yellowish, bone-like tissue that covers the root of a tooth. It helps hold the tooth in the socket. The cementum contains the periodontal membrane. Crown. The crown is the visible part of the tooth. It is the portion that lies above the gum tissue. A protective layer called enamel covers the crown. Dentin. It is the inner layer of the tooth structure, the hard but porous tissue located under both the enamel and cementum of the tooth. Dentin is harder than bone. It contains the pulp chamber and the root canals, which make up the bulk of the tooth. The dentin layer is softer than enamel, yellowish in color, and carries sensations such as temperature and pain to the pulp. Enamel. It is the tough, shiny, white, protective outer surface of the tooth. Gums. These are the soft tissue that surrounds the base of the teeth. Nerves. Nerves transmit signals, conveying messages like hot, cold, or pain to and from the brain. Pulp. It is the soft center of the tooth. The pulp contains blood vessels and nerves. It nourishes the dentin. Root. The root is the anchor of a tooth that extends into the jawbone. The number of roots ranges from 1 to 3. Human beings have 2 sets of teeth in their lives. The primary teeth, also called the baby, milk, or deciduous teeth, and the permanent teeth, also called the adult or secondary teeth. Children have 20 primary teeth. They are replaced by the permanent teeth by about age 13. Adults have 32 permanent teeth. Ligaments and tendons. Ligaments are tough fibrous cords composed of connective tissue that contains both collagen and some elastic fibers. The elastic fibers allow the ligaments to stretch to some extent. Ligaments surround joints and bind them together. They help strengthen and stabilize joints, permitting movement only in certain directions. Ligaments also connect one bone to another. Tendons are tough bands of connective tissue made up mostly of a tough protein called collagen. They do not stretch. Tendons firmly attach each end of a muscle to a bone. They are located within sheaths. which are lubricated to allow the tendons to move without disturbing surrounding tissue. Bursas are small fluid-filled sacs that lie under a tendon, cushioning the tendon and protecting it from injury. Bursas also provide extra cushioning to adjacent structures that otherwise might rub against each other, causing wear and tear, for example, between a bone and a ligament. Cartilage. Cartilage is a rubbery substance used in various places around the body. These are made by the cell called chondrocytes, embedded in a jelly-like ground substance with fibers of collagen, which is enveloped in a tough fibrous membrane, the perichondrium. Cartilage is usually found in close association with bone in the body. It is a type of connective tissue which is tough, semi-transparent, elastic and flexible. In mammal embryos, the skeleton first forms as cartilage tissue. Cartilage acts as a model and is gradually replaced by bone as the embryo grows. Such cartilage is known as temporary cartilage. The process by which bone tissue follows the cartilage model and slowly replaces it is known as ossification. Permanent cartilage, which does not become ossified, are found in the tip of the nose, in the external ear, and in the walls of the trachea, windpipe, and the larynx, voice box. Cartilages are divided into 3 types. Hyaline cartilage. It is the most widespread cartilage in our body. It is almost clear, pearly white, and quite tough, and it acts as a cushion between the bones and the joints against impacts. Fibrous cartilage. It is a tough cartilage used in between the bones of the spine and in knee. In knee, it makes menisci between the thigh and shin bones. Elastic cartilage. It is very flexible in nature, used in our airways, nose and ears. These grow quicker than bone.